The People's Democratic Party (PDP) has stated that it has not yet zoned its presidential tickets to any zone of the country. The Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the party, Ibrahim Abdullahi, noted that the party has learned sufficient lessons in time past over zoning of presidential tickets, saying it will handle issues better this time. Now, the Southeast has been clamoring for Igbo presidency come 2023, but individuals from the North and South have reportedly expressed intentions to run for the same seat. However, the absence of zoning of the tickets confusion seems to abound in the political party arena as we speak. Well, joining us to discuss this and more is Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Ibrahim Abdullahi. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Abdullahi.
Thank you very much for having me.
Interesting. What exactly is the plan of the People's Democratic Party for 2023? There's so much that's been happening within the party. We've seen governors, former governors coming together to galvanize the support of the National Working Committee as to a way forward for the zoning issue. But where does the PDP stand right now, being that there are calls from the Southwest, the Southeast, even the South-South, for the party to zone its ticket in that direction?
Well, it is what you expect in democracy, especially in a political party the size of the PDP. You have nothing less than 80% of Nigerians as members of the PDP, at least the voting class. Those who are conscious of democracy and those who are in the arena as Democrats constitute over 80%, and they are in PDP. Now, when that is the case, you are likely to have the situation that we have, which is having everybody interested in vying for one office or the other, especially that of the president. Now, PDP's zoning formula has been a gentleman agreement from the incipient stage in 1998 under the military in the build-up to handing over to the democratic government in 1999, which President Olusegun Obasanjo succeeded in becoming the first democratically elected president after the military handed over. Now, conscious of the diverse nature of Nigeria as a heterogeneous society with people of different belief and value system, people from different zones and divide and religious beliefs, it is only fair that you begin to think of getting people to appreciate, zoning, so that if you have a taste of power, you the next time hand it over to the next zone so that they can also have. That was it. It was not contained in our constitution. It is not, because the mistake Nigerians make often is to assume that it's a constitutional thing. No, it's a gentleman agreement to accommodate all the members of the PDP and people who will have the opportunity from other zones to test power. So if it comes to the north, it is expected the next time to go to the south on the basis of gentleman agreement. But we are getting to a stage where we are appreciating that having come this far, it is important we begin to look at the best man for the job across the divide. It could come from the south, it could come from the north, regardless of that agreement which we had in 1998. So in the build-up to 2023, PDP is interfacing now. It's engaging all the critical stakeholders so that we will come up with informed decision as to where the presidency will be zoned to, which we will communicate to Nigerians in due course.
So there are those who are of the school of thought that all of a sudden the PDP has decided to re-strategize and throw its, doors open to all zones to come and play. And these calls or these sentiments are coming from the people in the South who say, well, it's now our turn. Why is the PDP deciding to ask for everybody to run for the office and may the best man win? Why was this not done initially? And some people feel that this is a targeted attempt by the PDP to rob them of their opportunity to run for these offices. What do you have to say about that? Mr. Abdullahi, can you hear me?
It's not misplaced. But if you are to compute the number of years that the North has held power from 1999 to this period that we are, 2022, you will discover that the South has held power even more, much as we are not looking at things from that perspective. Olusegun Obasanjo, that I told you in the beginning, had 8 years from 1999 to 2007. He was succeeded by President Yaradua, who was short-lived. After about 2 years to 3 years, we lost President Yaradua, and Goodluck Jonathan, another Southerner, continued until about 2015. Now, if you put this together, you will discover that the South has held on to power for an 11 or more years in the 15 years of the PDP. So if that line of argument were to be rational, the North will have more excuse than the Southerners. But that's not where we are going. We are looking at it from a perspective where, having come this far, let Nigerians enjoy the benefit of producing leadership from merit, leadership from competence, leadership from capacity, leadership from ability, as opposed to doing it that gentleman agreement or gentle way agreement that we have had from 1998 to 2015 when PDP lost power. What we are saying is that if it so favors the South, as it were, for the ticket of the presidency, which is in the table, and we are discussing to that effect, the entire northern Nigeria and, of course, the South family of the PDP will rally behind the South to produce the next president. But as we speak, that decision is not yet arrived at. We are working hard to ensure that we produce for Nigerians competence, character, capacity, and the ability to salvage them from this despair and hopelessness in the land. So this is why PDP is taking caution and applying a lot of restraint in concluding on the issue of zoning. But you rest assured that in the fullness of time, and that's not distant time from now, PDP will bring for Nigerians salvation, and it will lead them to the light, which is lying at the end of the tunnel.
I want to probe a bit further on the issue of competence and leadership and all of these things, central in the South. So really, when we talk about these things, it makes it look like somebody is just going to emerge that has all of these characteristics, but we do have these people. So again, what is the modus operandi, or how are you strategically going to pick these persons that you term as well vested or capacitated with this kind of leadership qualities? I mean, I'm sure that every zone can produce those people, but then it boils down to something else, doesn't it? And what is that something? I think you are muted, and I'd like for you to quickly unmute yourself, Mr. Abdullahi, so we can hear you.
I have done that.
Great. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I was saying that in democracy and in constitutional democracy like the one we practice, it is only natural that you allow people to exercise their freedom and fundamentals. And that is what is happening around the PDP, appreciating that every person is entitled under the law to try. But again, we have come so far with the zoning formula. Having attained this height, and democracy today, our democracy is not nascent relatively. It has come over 20 years, and we are beginning to appreciate that it is time that we allow the best to come out of the system. If we narrow it to zone continuously, for how long are we going to allow the opportunity? And don't forget, democracy is about contest of ideas. Just when you are thinking one zone is good, another zone will tell you that they are better.
And that's why I'm asking, should we base this only on competence? Because again, it makes me think that maybe the PDP before now never ever at any point thought about the issue of competence and true leadership qualities. You just probably gave a flag bearer that ticket based on sentiments of zoning. That's what it sounds like, except politics. To me that, I mean, I'm wondering, I'm not concluding, that maybe the PDP had not necessarily considered these qualities that you're talking about now, that the PDP is re-strategizing to look at. when they were awarding party tickets to presidential aspirants before now? Is that what you're trying to tell us, that, oh, all of a sudden you now realize that competence trumps everything else, including zoning and the gentleman's agreement that you had in 1999?
You see, what is important to appreciate in democracy is that it's an evolving thing. It continues to evolve over time. And for us to advance the frontiers of democracy, we grow to be a formidable structure where the peculiarities of the concept of democracy will be open to everybody that is involved in the system. In 1998 and at the formation of the PDP, much of what you are talking about were not factors that were considered. So we were trying to, it was a nascent democracy, as it were. We were trying to raise it to a level where we seem to have attained now. Therefore, if you have to do it the wise way, is to allow everybody to try. And don't forget one thing, anywhere throughout the globe, democracy is about majority, it's about number. It is a contest for the majority, for them to have their way, and the minority will have a say. We are not looking at the South as a minority, no. But what we are trying to say is to aggregate where the electoral fortune will come. If the North, for example, will give us the opportunity to produce the presidency as opposed to the South, why not? But if the South will have that opportunity for us, why not the South? What we are trying to do now is to leave the whole thing open to the system itself and to Nigerians for them to see if, after evaluating all the factors available for us, and trying to do now is to evaluate the options that are open that will advance our electoral fortune. We're aggregating the ideas and the views of Nigerians and come up with informed decision, which will be let out for the consumption of Nigerians at the fullness of time. So the haste with which the South is asking for this is misplaced, if you ask me. It's the advantage of the PDP winning election and salvaging Nigerians from despair and despondency, which seem to have pervaded the land. If you ask me, that is the way to go. But the PDP is looking at the options available on the table, and they are weighing it. And we shall get back to Nigerians in due course.
Let's talk about a statement that was credited to a PDP leader in the South. And I'd like to quote him, although he said this under conditions of an...
Before the National Working Committee came on board. What we're trying to do is to ensure, as critical stakeholders and as people that are driving, affairs in their respective states, they are consulted. You wouldn't expect in a democracy a sitting governor not to have a say in an issue, but certainly they will not be the ones to dictate one pace, not under a Senator, Dr. Ioche Ayu, who was the former Senate President of the Federal Republic, who became a PhD at the, as far back as 1984. He's been in the academia, and he left there and joined politics. In no distant time, he became the Senate President. And so you don't expect anyone to come out there and intimidate Professor Ioche Ayu. In any case, he was a minister, I remember in his ambassador.